Hello to everybody who is watching on Facebook and YouTube. We're going to get started on Supergirl Radio here in a little bit. I'm going to wait for a little bit and see if Morgan pops in. So we'll just be hanging out for a few minutes and letting everybody gather up. So if you are wanting to join us, we are both on the Supergirl Radio Facebook page, and I'm going to verify that before I talk any further. I like to double check it and make sure that it's working as it should, because I'm paranoid. Okay, yes. So we are live on Facebook. That is working like it should. And then also we should be, yes, there we are on YouTube. So good deal. So you can watch on Facebook and YouTube. Doesn't matter. We'll be able to see your comments wherever you are. We already have a hey Donna in the chat. So we're going to be talking to Donna tonight about the Danvers sisters and an essay that she wrote for a book that we're going to talk about here. It's kind of hard to get it in there. It's such a small window. But we do have the link. We should have the link to the book in the video description. So if you are interested in the book, you will be able to click on that and buy it. I encourage you to do so. It's available in physical paperback form as well as Kindle form. Sometimes I prefer reading things on Kindle and digitally. It's nice because I can bookmark and highlight everything. So I've become a weirdo. Not a weirdo. For me, it's a weird thing to think about because I don't know about you, Donna, but I love flipping pages in a book. And I used to be staunchly like, I'm not going to read anything digitally. I like to turn pages. And now I'm like, I have everything on my phone. It's great.
Yeah, me who, for a part-time job, used to sell digital devices, but in a bookstore. But I came around. It's like I've got half on physical books and half of them on my Nook. Yeah, which is great, particularly if you were traveling a lot. The Nook where it works.
Yeah, I do like having a whole comic book library on my phone. I have some, nonfiction and, fiction books on my phone as well. That's great. All right. So we do have Morgan in here. So just we've got some people in the chat. Kenny's here. New Rachel's here. Leslie's here. Claudia's here. I guess we can wait a few more minutes. Morgan, you doing all right?
Yeah. Sorry, okay. I was a couple minutes late. I was running to do the dishes. And
I know, it's okay. You have a life. You have things to do.
Oh God.
I thought you were getting your kitties ready for their appearance because mine are prowling around in the background.
No, I locked the kitties up because I was like, I don't want to be on the middle of the stream and be like, no, Beaker, leave that alone.
Are they going to tearing stuff up now?
Oh my God. Well, their thing is we have this spiral plant stand that's in the corner of my living room that we got before the kitties, and they're challenge accepted. So they keep getting up on top of one thing and then putting their bodies like this onto the plant stand. So I'll be working on something. I'll look across and I'll just see him hanging in midair. And I'm like, no, Bunsen.
That is hilarious. Okay.
They are exceedingly medium boys.
They're not good. They're just medium.
Oh, just medium. Wait till they get a little older and bond, and then they decide a wrestling match at 2 a.m. in the middle of your bed is a problem.
Oh no. See, we're trying to keep them out of the bedroom. That is the goal and that is the dream, but we'll see how it goes. That's what everyone's been telling me. Good luck.
Not gonna happen.
We live in a condo, and today Mike was coming in with some boxes, and the cats were just kind of loose, and I was busy doing something, and I looked up and I heard Mike go, oh God, he's in the hall. And Beaker had run out into the hall, and he got a little bit down the hall, and Mike picked him up. Oh God, cats.
If people are not following at the Lab Cats, you really should. It's a fantastic
quality content.
Yeah. I've been enjoying it. Okay. All right. So, Morgan, do you have the doc? I just want to double check.
Yes.
The doc is there.
Yep.
It's a very short one, just so everybody knows. It's only 4 pages.
Oh my God.
What is happening?
What is going on?
Okay, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. There's some folks in the chat. So if just as a reminder, if anybody has any questions for Donna, or if you have any questions about the Danvers sisters, put them in the chat and we'll respond to them. All right, I'm going to have to remember how I did these sound effects from last week.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is new and I didn't do so hot. All right, so yeah,
I thought you did great last week. I thought it went well.
I did okay.
Awesome.
It was not
Trying to
my
figure out
best.
how my camera works. Excuse me for like just disappearing from half of the frame.
All right, so let me yeah, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started if you guys are ready to go.
I'm good.
All right, I'm going to play a little sound effect with the intro music, Donna, and it's going to mute your microphone for a second, and then it'll pop us back on, and then we'll get started. So if you can't talk to us, that's the way it's supposed to be. All right, so I will go ahead and get this playing, and we'll get started.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Noyce, and you're listening to Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the CW Supergirl TV series and the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, we are live and wired on Facebook and YouTube. And we are joined this week by Donna Cromeans, who contributed an essay about the Danvers sisters in a book titled Girl of Steel, Essays on Television, Supergirl, and Fourth Wave Feminism. Welcome back to Supergirl Radio, Donna. You've been with us before, and you're back to talk about your new book. So welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm honored you guys asked me back. It's been a while.
Yeah, so we're kind of making it a goal this summer during the hiatus to feature people in the Supergirl fandom who are doing some cool stuff. So your contribution to the book is definitely one of those things, and so we're excited to talk to you today. So what we're going to be talking about is the Danvers sisters. Are the Danvers sisters?
Are?
Because it's plural, right? We're going to be talking about the Danvers sisters.
Sisters plural is are.
Yes. Because you enjoy the Danvers sisters. I know you have a Danvers sisters t-shirt on, which is very fun.
Nice. Oh, they're so cute.
They are so cute. So I know you have a big passion for that dynamic on the show. And of course, I think we all do. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to speak on behalf of all Supergirl fans.
You can.
Yeah. But I think most fans really enjoy the Kara and Alex dynamic. So we're going to be talking about that in this week's episode of Supergirl Radio. So my first question, Donna, is how did you get involved in this book? How did you get involved in writing for it?
I was trying to remember this afternoon. It was either 2 or 3 years ago. One of my colleagues at Spoiler TV, and if people don't know, I do reviews and editorials and articles and things for SpoilerTV.com. And one of the shows that I write about often is Supergirl. One of my colleagues was approached by one of the editors that they were putting together the book and would she be interested. And she gave them my name and they reached out to me and I had to write a proposal to see if it would be accepted in the book, which was pretty intimidating, but I did. And then it took, when they accepted the proposal and said, go ahead and write, you had to write, I think it was like a 10,000 word essay. And I started doing some research. It took about 6 to 8 months doing the research and actually writing the article, then submitting it along the way for review, and then editing. And then it took another year because I believe there were about 11 or 12 other contributors to the book, because it's a collection of essays published by McFarland Press, which is an academic press, actually. And if you look in the contributor bios, it's myself and one other contributor who are the only contributors who are not academicians, PhDs or educators or teachers or whatever. There's me and one other person who writes about Supergirl or pop culture. And oddly enough, our essays are in the same chapter.
That's awesome.
Well, just because you don't have that PhD doesn't mean you don't know something about Supergirl.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I did, and I had to. And it's very much an academic tone that they took with the book, in that each essay has a bibliography and footnotes and all this. I felt like I was back in high school.
I noticed the bibliography and the footnotes because I noticed two familiar faces in there. Teresa Giacino and Carly Lane were quoted, which I thought was really awesome. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So we had some Supergirl radio representation on there.
Well, good. Well, like I said, there was a lot of research out there when I accepted, and the title of my essay is Sisterhood of Steel: The Power Behind. Let me read the official title, because the official title isn't exactly what I titled it. But the Sisterhood of Steel: The Powerful Bond That Is the Heart of the CW Supergirl.
I like it.
And what I focused on was not only that the bond between the sisters on screen was powerful, but I found evidence and cited instances and things where you found that the actresses had created a powerful bond. And I make the assertion in the essay that one would not work without the other.
That leads into my next question. So why do you personally love the Danvers sisters? What draws you to their connection? Is it because the actresses play so well on screen together, or is it because the characters and history? What is it that draws you to those characters?
It's a little bit of all of the above. I think what appealed to me too is that I'm the youngest of three sisters. So that sister dynamic, and seeing it played so well and so accurately and not stereotypically, that it really reached me. And I was a Supergirl fan, and I was as excited as everybody when the show was announced and the pilot aired and all. And there was 1 minute in that pilot that kind of took me aback, and I went, whoa, this is more than just superhero. This is family. This is the sister dynamic. Because a lot of times in TV and TV shows and things like that, you see the sisters that are, they're either catty or they're fighting or they're backstabbing or what have you. And here were two sisters who were strong women on their own, but had this wonderful dynamic on screen. And that drew me to it. And that moment in the pilot, I write about it in the book. I tell about it anytime I talk to anyone that'll listen to me about the Danvers sisters. But in the pilot, there's Supergirl's feeling dejected that you don't need me, and Alex comes to her with her mother's glyph thing that had the message from her mother, and Kara's standing there, turns it on, and her mother pops up and she's listening to it. And you see Alex sort of start to step away to let Kara talk to her mother, because she knows how important that was to her. And the camera or the director, whoever chose to do this shot, has my eternal gratitude, because at that moment you see Alex start to back away to leave Kara and her mother. And Kara reaches down and takes her hand. and the camera lingers on their linked hands. And that, to me, is telling me, this sisterhood, this is something special. And
Yeah,
they continued to prove it throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's a great moment, especially when you think of how like the show has gone back before we get to that moment with Midvale and episodes like that, where we see the progression of their relationship. And so it's neat to see how they sort of started becoming sisters and what led to that moment in the pilot. So Morgan, I'm curious, why do you love you've written about the Danvers sisters?
That's true. Yeah.
So why do you think that their dynamic is a good one on the show?
Yeah, I just think that it's kind of the heart of the show, really, is that dynamic between Kara and Alex. I think that's established, like Donna said, in the pilot, where, they have all these moments, like Kara becomes Supergirl to save Alex. And I think it's really interesting to watch their dynamic. It's so good. The actors play so well off of each other, but also both characters grow, I feel like, every time they're in scenes together. And so that's why I like watching them, if it's on the couch and sort of talking about their day, or if it's having like really tough conversations, like in season 2 when Alex came out. I think that there's so much good stuff between the two of them, and it really highlights both of their individual characters when they're in scenes together. It's not like some of the other like interactions where it's about a love interest or something. It's always about, how these two characters are, like, what there is going on with them personally, and like how they're growing.
Yeah, I know Donna wrote in her essay about for the girl who has everything. I was trying to remember the exact title of that one. But that one to me is like my favorite Danvers Sisters episode, because to me that embodies like Supergirl has a sister who is so, not attached, but is so connected to her, and that their bond is so strong. And so I always enjoy seeing those kinds of dynamics play out on the show. So I'm going to bring up some comments from folks in the chat. Leslie says, I'm an only child and I always wanted a sister and to have a relationship like Alex and Kara. And let's see, there was also some other things in here. Kenny says that's one of his top 20 moments. Oh, Kenny, I'd be interested in what the other 19 moments are that you have in your top 20 from Supergirl season 5. No, from the 5 season run of Supergirl so far. See, Ellis, I guess, is I hope I didn't mispronounce. I love what Donna is describing, because Alex and Kara really chose each other as sisters and chose to make their families each other's families. That's a really good point, and that sort of leads into my next question. So thank you for the segue there, Ellis, in the chat. So you also mentioned in your essay that the adoption factor plays into their relationship. So what do you think it is about the adoption aspect of Kara and Alex that's so important to their dynamic?
I think it's the fact that they, just like Ellis said, it is that they chose each other. They, they were both thrust into a situation where neither one of them were happy about it to begin with, as we saw in Midvale. Kara wanted to use her powers. Alex was a 15-year-old teenager that, by the time we saw Midvale, her father was gone. Her father, who was probably her closest confidant or friend at the time, and suddenly excuse me, to have it thrust upon her that her mother saying, well, you have to watch out for her, you have to take care of her. And Alex is going, why me? But then we see, and that's why I loved it, that first moment that when we talked about them grasping hands in the pilot. And I loved it that in season 4, when we went to, and it's not everybody's favorite storyline, but I loved what they did with it, with the mind wipe. But there was a scene in season 4 when they're sitting in Red Daughter's apartment, and they're talking about, Alex says, you don't know what it's like. You don't have a sister. And Supergirl says, I do. And Alex sits down and she reaches out and takes her hand. And they make that connection there. And that's when I really believe Alex began remembering, that they make that connection there, just like they did in the pilot. And they brought it full circle.
That's a good way to look at that scene and that storyline, which admittedly is not one of Supergirl Radio's favorite.
It wasn't our favorite, but yeah,
storylines.
That's a good scene to highlight, I think.
Well, I think that storyline reset the dynamic. There was only so far that they could go. They had to do something to shake it up, and they chose to do something a little unconventional. Now, and I'm with y'all. I don't like the way they did some things, but I like the way they did other things in the storyline. And yes, I know, Rebecca, you don't like Take the Grass, and I totally get it.
Actually, I think we love Take the Grass, but for all the wrong reasons.
I think Take the Grass has become like an all-time iconic line of the show.
Well, I think you make a good point, though, about Red Daughter and Alex, because one of the things I did like about that storyline was that they gave Red Daughter an Alex.
Yeah.
And Alex was something, Alex, Red Daughter's Alex was Lex Luthor, but her Alex was very important to her, just like our Alex Danvers was to our Supergirl. So I thought that was a clever way of, I don't know if they fully went to all of the ultimate conclusions of that storyline that they could have, but I think the idea of that was really good.
I like the idea of that. I think there were some missed opportunities. I would have loved to have seen more of Red Daughter as Kara interacting with our Alex, and to see that perhaps it was not as dire, or what's the word I'm looking for, that it wasn't as corrupt maybe as Lex had her Alex had led her to believe. That this Alex, that bond is what showed her. I mean, you see, there's another prime example of that in probably my least favorite crossover is the Elseworlds crossover, but it had one of these great sister moments when Kara is talking to alternate Earth Alex and telling her my Alex and pinky swear and all of those things. And even though they were, it was an alternate universe Alex, that connection and that bond was still there. And I think that was a tribute, again, to Kyler and Melissa, that their bond, that they sold that moment because of that.
Yeah, they've done such a good job of building that relationship, even from the very beginning, that you always care, or at least I do. I always care about what's going on with them. And since we were sort of talking about Alex, Alex and Lex, Claudia makes a good point that the Danvers sisters are such opposites to the Luthor siblings. So Lex and Lena. So Donna, do you have any thoughts about that? About sort of the converse, or the opposite ends of the spectrum with the Danvers sisters and the Luthors on the show?
There are when you think about it, there are some parallels, because I forget the episode, House of L maybe, where Lex tells her if he had praised Lena, she would not have pushed herself and accomplished all the things that she would have. He motivated her that way, whereas Alex motivates Kara other ways, in more positive ways. So it is an interesting parallel, definitely obvious. Aside from the obvious gender parallels or non-parallels there, but
yeah.
And Ellis makes a good point. Their Lex and Lena are adoptive siblings too, but they didn't necessarily choose each other.
They certainly didn't, and he didn't choose to allow Lena to go off on all those horse rides. But
it's more important to say that she went off on those horse rides without him.
Yes,
not necessarily
that was a real sticking point.
So they do have their issues. But yeah, that's a cool point. I never really thought about I knew that there was an adoption angle with the Luthor siblings, but I had never that until we've had this conversation right here, that never really clicked in my mind to compare.
There's another sibling comparison that I wish we had seen more of. And that's with Mercy and Otis.
Yes. Why did they kill Mercy?
Yes.
I'll never get over that.
Me either, because I would have liked to have seen they were setting it. There was a beautiful storyline to set up as the parallels between the siblings, and they, they killed Mercy way too early.
Yeah, I agree. 4 episodes in is too early. Way too early.
It's way too early. I will say that Supergirl definitely, I think, if there's one family pairing, Supergirl always goes to the well. It's the sibling pairing because, we have Lena and Lex. We have Alex and Kara. We had Jean and his brother.
James and Kelly.
James and Kelly. We had Nia and her sister. So,
Right.
we've seen a lot of different sibling pairings over the various years, and I feel like every time we kind of see those pairings in contrast to Kara and Alex, which is usually like the good contrast, and then everybody else is like screaming at each other.
But look. But what I like too, though, is we both know Kara and Alex would. Oh, we have a visitor in the back. Kara and Alex, their relationship is not all, peaches and cream. They have their arguments and things too, but the bottom line is when it comes down to it, they would, die for each other and have come close to it, both of them. Alex telling James in For the Girl Who Has Everything, either I come back with my sister or I don't come back at all. And then Kara literally dying in Red Dawn, so it's interesting dynamics to see all of those sibling pairings, but family makes good drama. But all through the time, they've had arguments. Alex, I cannot tell you how much I stood up and cheered in season 2, the 2nd episode, I believe, where Kara talks about going to Metropolis. And Alex unloads on her like, I did this. I gave up medical school. I gave up my dad. I gave up this for you to go and dump me to go play with Clark. That was the first time, and I think I mentioned that in the book, that was the first time Alex stood up for herself.
Yeah, and Kenny actually brought that up about how Clark was not around to see Kara when she was a teenager and the bond that grew between Kara and Alex. And that's always been sort of a sticking point with Superman fans that I've noticed, that a lot of Superman fans don't like that in the comics. That's what happens in the Silver Age. Superman discovers this girl who turns out to be from Krypton, and she is his cousin. They find out, oh, our fathers are brothers, so who knew? And then he goes and dumps her off at an orphanage. And then he tells her, hey, you can't show your superpowers until I tell you that you're ready to do it. And she will, in the Silver Age, not get adopted because he says it's not time yet. So there are some things. It's so brutal. It's so tough to read. But that's been kind of that dynamic with Superman and Supergirl in the comics. And so they didn't go all the way with that on the show, but they sort of did. And Alex got really defensive, if I remember correctly, that she sort of stuck up for that and said, hey, Clark, kind of just dropped you off at our house and he abandoned you. So I was glad they mentioned that on the show.
And they've been good about moments like that. And for example, the way that they modified or adapted for the Man Who Has Everything, the way they told that story was and essentially turning that into a sister story and made it, a beautiful. I mean, that's going to be, when they years later when we're talking about this show, that's going to be one of the, the classic episodes that people will talk about.
If I'm honest, it's actually better than the comic. I'm just saying.
Oh, shots fired.
I'm just saying it makes.
I'm staying out of that one.
it makes more sense because in the comic, Clark, he did not experience Krypton, and so for Kara to go back there and experience a culture that she knew about, that means something more. So I personally prefer it.
The only version of that I was familiar with was the Justice League Unlimited version, where it was Superman, it was his birthday, and Wonder Woman and Batman show up at the Fortress of Solitude. And he's got the Black Mercy on him. And he he's remembering a Krypton where he's married there with Lois, you know.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just, it played so much better on the show. I'm just gonna be honest.
I'm not going to argue with you because it's my favorite character. So
we do have a question. So, so we sort of briefly talked about Alex and Jeremiah, which is a big point of controversy on here on Supergirl Radio. We like to talk about this aspect of the show quite a bit. It was a big not a cliffhanger, but a big turning point in the season when we found out what happened to Jeremiah Danvers off screen. I should remind everybody. But Leslie writes, what did you think about Alex ripping into Kara about Jeremiah's death before Alex became Super Alex? So how did you think the show handled the death of Jeremiah Danvers in relation to Kara and Alex?
In relation to Kara and Alex, well, I'm just going to start off by saying the acting in that scene was off the charts, and start there. Were Alex's arguments founded? I can see her side of it. I can see them making it at 15 being made to the responsibility of this sort of, unearthly golden child, and who got all of her parents' attention. So I can buy it. I mean, look, Alex, that whole episode was taking Alex through, I think, 7 stages of grief. And that was anger and denial. And when we're grieving or when we're angry like that, we lash out at the person we love or care about the most. And Kara was there, and Kara took the brunt of it. Now, that being said, I don't know, we didn't get to see those things about Jeremiah not talking to her or Jeremiah focusing on Kara, other than giving Kara the glasses, that kind of thing. So maybe if we'd had a little more context.
Do you mean if we actually saw Jeremiah on the show?
He wasn't in the jungle all those years.
No. I do like how they kind of saved themselves of that with the Eve Tessmacher twist.
That did save it for me. For me personally, I was like, all right, that's fine. I'm on this ride now. I'm back on the ride.
I'll buy this now because trust me, when Jeremiah came back and that whole storyline, and that gives us another iconic moment of Kara stopping the spaceship from going into space with Alex's hand on the window and them using the Red Tornado music at the time, That's going to go down as a big moment.
It's hard. It's tough to beat that one.
It's really tough to beat that one. But I personally had this entire other scenario written about how Jeremiah's story would end. That would have given him, 2 seasons worth of angst. But
I think we'd like to hear it. Would you pitch it to us?
Yeah. We pitch a lot of stories on this podcast. None of them come true.
No.
My theory was that, when Jeremiah comes back, and they did do what I expected, that they made him part of Cadmus. But my theory was he was going to, at some point, be at the brink of killing one sister or the other in some fashion. And the other sister would have to kill their father to save the sister.
Ooh, that's angsty.
Yeah, and you could have done 2 seasons worth of angst on that one. I mean,
they already kind of did that with Astra a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit. But I mean, think about it. The father she had longed for all those years, would Alex have really killed him to save Kara? And we know Kara. I think we know Kara would have done it to save Alex. I mean, she's shown that time and again. But just the idea of the angst that would have caused, the guilt that one of them would have had having to kill their father, I mean, they covered a little bit of that with Astra, and and gives us that great space family moment, but they could have done so much with that storyline if they had gone in that direction. I wasn't thrilled with the way, he disappeared to begin with the second time after Alex blew up Lillian's thing, and then he fights the cyborg Superman, and then we don't see him again.
Mm-mm.
They were never going to stop looking for him, and then they stopped looking for him immediately.
Exactly.
Well, that's an interesting story proposition. I always sort of pitched in my head like a road trip scenario where Kara and Alex got in a some sort of like got in Jean's space car and like a road trip to find Jeremiah. Like that's what I would have done. But that's an interesting take, Donna. I appreciate that. Well, we do have some questions, so let me see if I can get to them here. Let's see. Okay, so Ella says, with Alex's change in employment at the end of this season, at the end of season 5, how do you expect the sisters' relationship to evolve?
Oh, I think it's going to be even stronger. I think for the first time, I was personally thrilled when Alex left the DEO because it opens up such storylines. Everything we know or have seen about Alex in her growth on the show has been tied to the DEO and protecting Kara. Now, for the first time, we have Alex out in the world finding out who she is. And their dynamic is going to go from, I think they're now more, instead of Alex being a protector, they're more partners, or that they are working together. Like I loved when they went to talk to Kelly's friend, and they were there as the sisters together. I loved that scene. It was just, yeah, I see her. I love that scene because it was the Danvers sisters working together.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, any scene that those two are in together is golden. They will elevate it just so many levels because they do so much with it, or so much little. And it's like the evolution of their sisterhood on the show, and the evolution of the relationship with the actresses. I think they are so comfortable in those characters and so comfortable in that relationship that they can add so much to a scene with just a look, or maybe an ad-libbed comment, or a touch, or just an action or emotion or something that you're thinking that wasn't scripted. You can almost tell when they're scripted and when they're not.
Morgan, what are your thoughts about Alex now that she has her new super suit, and how do you think that's going to play into the new dynamic between Supergirl and this new Super Alex, I guess?
That's funny because after I answer, I really want to know what Donna thinks about Super Alex and her super awesome makeup. But no, I just don't know. I'm okay. I think, to Donna's point, I am okay with Alex leaving the DEO. Like, clearly we're never going to get Director Bones. So, okay, fine. Just destroy the building then. If I can't get Director Bones, I want it gone. But I'm excited for the story avenues that opens for Alex, just because there were story avenues at the DEO that the show seemed completely uninterested in them pursuing. Like, she was the head of the DEO, but we never really saw her adjusting to that. We never saw her struggling much with what does it mean to be the boss of this whole organization.
They never actually let her be the head of the DEO.
They didn't let her be the head. Yeah, she was the head of the DEO for a second, and then they gave her 5 bosses just to So I was kind of annoyed after that. I was like, okay, well, here was a good opportunity for a storyline for her, and she's not getting it. And then I felt like this season, the DEO really was kind of a non-entity. And then she left again, and Brainy became the head, and I was like, whatever. So I'm interested to see if they're not interested in Alex DEO stories. I'm interested to see what it does kind of open up the fields of stories that you can tell with Alex, because when she was at the DEO, it was a lot of DEO stories, you know. So it was like, oh, now she's the head of the DEO. Now she's kind of not the head of the DEO. And I'm excited without her being in the DEO, like what kind of Alex Danvers stories can we get? Like, and that's, I guess, part of the reason why I'm not super excited for her to be whatever Super Alex's code name is going to be, like Eyeshadow or whatever.
That's actually a good name,
right? Oh my God, it's Eyeshadow. she's come to save the day. It's so blue, so brave.
I personally like the streak.
Oh, interesting.
The streak was what made me laugh the most, definitely. But
here's the thing: in all the interviews they did before they revealed that, and when they revealed that, and I'm going, you know, I had a real problem with them calling Alex a vigilante.
Yeah,
I just, that doesn't fit. I mean, yeah, Alex is kick ass, and she'll, you know, kick butt and take names and all of that. But they forget, Alex is also a PhD, and she's a highly intelligent woman.
They forget that a lot.
And they forget that a lot. So here's an opportunity for her to do that in the tower, to her work with John as an investigator, to her working with Kelly as an investigator, you know, going into the virtual reality to save the guy that was trapped there. Did I like the costume? I liked the costume. I wasn't crazy about the makeup, but I forgave it because I saw an Instagram live that Kyler and her husband did right about that time. And she says that really wasn't the finished product, that there was more to come with the costume that was in the episode that we did not get to see. So I'm wondering. And she also said that she had a great deal of input in designing the costume and designing the makeup and designing the hair, because she did not want a mask and she didn't want to be Oliver Queen 2.0.
Well,
yeah.
And so I'm willing
then why the hood though?
Yeah, I know.
That's kind of like his main thing.
My favorite was when Kelly was like, I think maybe it's time for you to get out there with a mask. And Alex was like, hold on. I got it. Alex pulls out her Wet and Wild, and she's like, I got this.
The thing was it what, 1 or 2 episodes earlier, Kelly's having a nervous breakdown because Alex almost gets killed. And now she wants her to be a vigilante.
They're remarkably inconsistent with that relationship in a way that just blows my mind.
I mean, I love the relationship. I love that it's a mature relationship and that they actually talk to one another and they work together. I get that, and I understand what I think they're trying to do. They need Alex to have some sort of role in the tower because everybody that's in the tower has a secret identity. So I get that. I just, like I said, Kyler said she didn't want a mask. So she says there was more to come with the costume that we didn't get to see. So based on that statement that I heard from her mouth, I'm willing to give it, I'm willing to reserve judgment. Let me put it that way till we see the whole thing, the finished product.
Oh, now, I'm gonna judge it. That's 100% gonna happen. I just want to point out this quality pun that Leslie put in the chat.
Only the eyeshadow.
I love it. That's a deep cut if you're a fan of the shadow. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. That's that.
Let's
but
see.
The best thing, it's a wonderful thing about the sisterhood relationship is, and it's not just, I mean, we all have those big iconic scenes that we like, but it's the subtle little scenes that I just, I love. And again, it goes back to, I think, the actresses' relationship and connection is that now, by this time, they are so comfortable with one another on screen that they can do those things that makes it seem real and genuine. As much as it's been talked about and discussed and argued about, I'm wondering if Kara's reaction to Alex's new suit, how much of that was Kara and how much of that was Melissa, that they hid it from her and it was Melissa seeing it.
That might have been.
It could be. Yeah.
Because I mean, as corny as it was, that was probably one of the most authentic Danvers sisters moments we'd had in a long time, because she was genuinely excited for her sister.
Yeah, it's just weird for me to watch that, because the way she screamed was sort of the way I was feeling inside, but it kind of in a negative way. I was like, no, what are you doing? What is that? But you know, as Cara would support her sister, so
Cara's very supportive. Cara was like, I love the eyeshadow.
No, she said the suit. She didn't say anything.
That's true. That's true. That's very diplomatic of Cara. She was like, I love everything about that suit.
And even when David directed that episode, somebody asked him on Twitter about, it looked like that there were parts of that scene that were edited out. And he says there were. He said there were parts of that scene that they didn't even get to finish filming and all. So they had to cut it, because that's why it walked in and Alex is parading around showing us the back of the costume, like, you know, like she's doing a runway walk for Cara in the suit. Because one minute she's standing right next to her, and the next minute she's across the room.
yeah,
You know, so it was it was a very strange edit. It was an odd edit, you know. So I mean, the oddness about it aside, I just thought it was a genuine moment between the sisters. And like I said, she was genuinely happy for her sister. I think that, you know, she knew Alex was feeling out of sorts. You know, Alex had been 7 years or 8 years or whatever she said, with not going out with her gun and all of that. So, you know, I did call it, though. I did say that the suit would be instrumental in creating, I mean, the wrist thing would be instrumental in creating the suit.
Yeah, that's a good out to make up an excuse about maybe why something is not maybe
Finished.
Visually good looking.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's you know, it's Martian technology. It kind of just
It's on the fritz.
Yeah. And she hasn't fully mastered it yet. So
that's right. Maybe when she masters it, it's gonna be like it's gonna be so good. The makeup is gonna be so on point.
It's gonna be amazing.
So Donna, let's get to some more questions, because people are really enjoying your thoughts here. So if you could write a whole book on just the Danvers sisters, would you want to do that?
I could, because this book, Girl of Steel, only covers the first 2 seasons, and so much has happened to this sisterhood in seasons 3, 4, and 5. So much, and I would focus too, like, on the missed opportunities for sister scenes that we've had, and
like what? I'm just going to jump in.
Well, all right, let's go back. Season 2, the episode Alex, which is it was the big Cara Maggie scene where Alex was kidnapped, and she
got out of it by utilizing her pants.
One of the all-time greats. Still reference it.
But after they rescue her, and Alex wakes up in the med bay, and Maggie's there, and I know that entire scene was designed for her and Maggie's first "I love you." But given the whole context of the episode, it did not make sense to not have at least 5 or 10 seconds of when Alex woke up in the med bay, her sister was by her side saying, "I'm glad you're all right. I love you." And then her looking up at Maggie, sort of giving her her approval, and then her stepping out and them saying, "I love you." That's one big one. Another one where they missed a huge opportunity was in season 3, the episode about pestilence, when Alex and Wynn are both infected. And that whole episode had set up the parallel. Here's another sister parallel, or a sibling parallel. Imra and her sister.
Oh, yeah.
Imra wanted to kill Pestilence to save her sister. Cara kept telling her no. And Imra going to extremes to try to save her sister. And then Alex gets sick. Alex is almost dying. And Imra's watching tearfully outside, seeing how much Kara loves her sister. And yet that big moment, which should have been between Kara and Alex about an ill Alex saying, I don't want to die, I love you. And Kara saying, I'm going to do whatever I can to save you. And you just hang in there and you fight and what have you. That should have been between the sisters. They gave it to Wynn and James.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Well, that was part of, I guess, a little bit trying to get Wynn, Wynn's storyline to depart the show. But yeah, I agree. I mean, that should have been a sister storyline.
Yeah, definitely. They were like, we need something for these two to do. We forgot about them.
They never did a good job of trying to incorporate at least James in there.
See, that was the perfect sister parallel. Imra and her sister, and Kara and Alex. I mean, beautiful. Another one like the Graves siblings. They missed that opportunity. They have this incredible dynamic. They have this incredible acting team. Let them run with it. Go with your strengths. But then again, they don't. They'll make some of the oddest choices. Another, I don't know if I would call it a sister moment, but another missed opportunity. I want to see Alex and Lillian go toe to toe.
I'd be into that.
Reach it, Donna.
I mean, they made a big deal of it. All of these veiled, in the warehouse, in the bar, in the compound. It's like your family. I'll go after your family. I will go, your father, or I will go after your family, or I will do this. And Alex standing there toe to toe with Lillian and Brenda Strong, who I absolutely adore. But Alex saying, I killed Astra of El with a kryptonite sword, just so you know what I'm capable of for anyone who comes after my family. And then they drop it.
Because Alex just wasn't into going out and looking for Jeremiah. She kind
of forgot about it.
It was just not the right time. She had things to do.
But to answer that question, I absolutely would, because there is so much material to be covered in 3, 4, and 5. The work dynamic, when Alex was in charge of the DEO and they put Kara in the suit and Kara disobeyed her and Alex came and ripped her a new one, just like she would any employee for disobeying an order. It's on me now. If you die, it's on me. So, there was that. I see their relationship as when it started, season 1, Alex was the protector. Season 2, when Alex came out, there was sort of a shift and Kara became the protector. In season 3, they grew kind of as sisters and women. And in season 4, they kind of continued that. But and I think what they have an opportunity to do here now, and they started to set up in season 5, and maybe we'll get to see in season 6, is that to see them working now as partners. I want to see, after all she's done for the Girl of Steel and the House of Krypton, I want to see Alex with the House of El crest on her uniform somewhere.
Oh, yeah, we did have a question about that from Bianca. That's going to be a hard no for me, I think. But I'd be curious, Donna, why you think that is something you
I think it takes that dynamic kind of full circle. It's like they're sisters on Earth. Let them be sisters on Argo or Krypton. I mean, I commissioned a piece of art with Kara putting the crest around Alex's neck with Kelly looking on. I mean, that was one of my dream scenes. Look at how proud Kara was of Alex when she introduced her to her mother. The pride in her voice and the smile on her face. She says, Mom, this is Alex. This is the most important person in the world to me. And that for however many years it had been then, Alex has done nothing but devoting her life to protecting the daughter of Krypton. So let Krypton honor her for it. Have Wynn, when he came back from the future, tell them, just a throwaway line. You don't know it, but in the future, you're just as revered as your sister as being the protector of the daughter of Krypton.
I think the idea of that is a good one, and I would agree with you that Alex, has done a lot to help Kara. But for me personally, and I don't know, Morgan, how you feel about this, but Kara doesn't get enough focus on her on the show anymore. The show doesn't care about Supergirl. They don't care about, at least in my opinion, they don't care about telling Supergirl stories. They're not interested in focusing on Kara as having episodes that are Kara centric anymore. And so the idea of that, the struggle that I have with that as a Supergirl fan extends to my hard no about the crest, because then it extends to, well, Kara's not even important enough on her own anymore. Someone else is going to come in and be Supergirl. So that's, I have issues with, but I understand like the idea of that. And I think it's a good one. And I think it fits their dynamic. I just think it takes away from Supergirl, who already is losing storylines and has not been the focus of the show for a while.
I will tell you, in that same Instagram live that Kyler and her husband did, she talked about that there was something coming up in that episode that we miss, some honor or something that Alex gets, because they were talking about the suit, and some honor or some, can't remember how she worded it, but it gave people the impression that maybe we were going to see her get that crest or the House of El. I don't know. If they do it, fine. I will be a happy camper. If they don't do it, fine. I will also be a happy camper as long as they keep telling strong sister-connected stories. Those stories are the ones that resonate to me with the majority of the fans. When the show was
the stories that the fans want to see, honestly.
Exactly. That is the by far strongest and most important relationship on the show. I mean, I talk about, like I said, I keep going back to the book, but I talk about it, and that's the whole point of the essay. They are the heart and soul and foundation of that soul. Every show, everything else should be built around that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm just dreading the episode when Alex gets that S shield on her.
We don't know. What if it's like a little pin and they just like pin it on her? And they're like,
whoa, Morgan, it's gonna be rough.
Don't you know how much fun Kyler had putting that suit on with the S and the cape, and in that context, it worked.
Yeah, I agree. In that particular crossover, I agree.
And in that context, it worked. Yeah. No, don't or have, I want another Midvale type episode.
Oh,
100. They should all be Midvale type episodes.
Right.
Yeah, why can't we have that? Why can't we have nice things?
Or my dream episode is have what they call a bottle episode. And you have Kara and Alex somewhere together. There's a cave-in or a disaster or something, but they're trapped somewhere together. And Kara doesn't have her powers. And they have to rely on each other and their ingenuity and their strengths and working together to get out. And let it just be the two of them on screen for an hour.
That'd be amazing. I feel like I pitch on Supergirl Radio all the time. Like, why don't we have a bottle character, like a bottle episode? Like, why don't we just follow one character it's a full season. It's not like a Netflix show where they have 10 episodes. They have 22. Like, we can take a break and follow, have a just an Alex and Kara episode, and then check in with the rest of the cast next week. Like, I would love that kind of episode.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to see one with just the two of them, because,
Here's a good idea.
I love it.
Right.
Look, have Kara take Alex to Argo City.
Yeah, well, I think New Rachel's idea about a bottle episode that takes place in the Bottled City is a good one because in the comics, the characters of Flamebird and Nightwing go into the Bottle City of Kandor, and they could assume that the mantles of Flamebird and Nightwing and go down into the Bottle City. I would be 100% on board with that. I think that would be an amazing episode. I think we just wrote an episode of the show, and they should use it. Because that's again great.
Pitching free ideas everywhere.
Free ideas, just floating everywhere.
I know, and then it's a shame. I mean, that there are a lot of. I mean, you've seen some of the fanfic and the stories that people pitch out there. People have some great ideas that, unfortunately, because of legalities, the writers that are on social media and things, they can't legally look at or listen to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All of our pitching is literally on deaf ears.
Deaf ears, literally.
And they would all be so good. They would all be quality episodes.
Oh, absolutely. But I would love.
They're free ideas. They could just take them.
It's a cheap idea, I mean, you could do what have one of them. It's a cheap trick, and shows do it all the time. But put one of them in a coma, and the other one sitting there talking to them. Remember when we did this and did this and did this and did this to bring them back, kind of thing. So it's wild. It's but there are so many possibilities. And like I said, but then again, they'll take a story, they'll have a great opportunity, a great storyline, and then they'll drop the ball by not giving us that payoff scene. Like the Kara and Alex in the med bay after Alex. That was the payoff scene. That the whole argument, that whole episode had been who loved her more, Maggie or Kara? When the fact was they loved her equally and differently. Then show that at the end. And instead they went the other way. So there's some of them I may give them a pass for, some of them no. Those were such missed golden opportunities.
No, hold them accountable, Donna. Hold them accountable. let them know.
As long as we're pitching, I want a Danvers Sisters karaoke.
Yes. Have they not sung karaoke together before?
No.
I think so.
Gasp.
No.
What would they sing?
Kara sings karaoke with, I feel like, every other person. Really?
Exactly. And here, I mean, you want to get really cheesy with it? Have them sing like Sisters from White Christmas or something.
Oh, that would be cute, actually. That would be cute. I'd be into that.
But they both have such beautiful voices. Let them sing together. They, from what we hear, they're always singing on set and what have you. Give us and some great moments of the show, not just Danvers Sisters, but some just great overall moments have happened at karaoke night.
Yep.
True.
Claudia says she'd want to see a Danvers Midvale type episode that shows when they decided to head to National City. Yeah, that's a history of their relationship that has not been explored yet. Why did they go to National City? Why did Kara want to pursue that job at Catcoat? Those kinds of things.
Well, I have a bit of trivia for you. Do you know in the season 1, I believe it's the season 1 DVDs, the deleted scenes, there's a scene like that?
Oh, it's been a while since I've watched all that stuff.
Season 1 DVD, there's a deleted scene where Kara comes to see Alex, and Alex is laying there in her apartment, passed out, and she's got a letter from the school that she's about to get kicked out of school. Kara's in like some barista uniform, and they're talking about it or something. But here's the thing. The apartment that is Alex's apartment in that scene is what is now Kara's loft. So
Kara booted her out.
Alex had it first.
That's so funny.
Alex had it. It was Alex's apartment first, or it was Alex's loft first. And then it's Kara's. Because they talk about something about her taking the apartment when Alex went off to study somewhere or something. But they talk about it. I mean, it's a great scene, and I understand why they cut it, but it still was very telling that, oh, hey, Alex had the apartment first.
Well, they might have. I wonder if they lived together, if they were roommates, and then Alex was like, "I cannot live with this alien anymore. I've got to get my own place."
I mean, could you that loft is really nice, but there are no walls, so like, I feel like that's gonna test any sister relationship.
Oh.
Well, Kara sometimes in the comics, I think in the Sterling Gates run, she like has a bad dream and she wakes up and like she's heat visioned, the walls and stuff just because like she has a bad dream. So I can imagine something like that probably would have happened.
Not getting that security deposit back.
No.
Have y'all noticed? I mean, I love it, and I love the couch scenes, but the upholstery on that couch has changed.
Oh, I did not notice that.
I haven't noticed it.
Yeah, go back and look. It was a light color, and then it was a dark color, and I think it's a light color now.
How is Kara like affording to buy all these new couches? I mean, that's quite an investment.
It's that Pulitzer money, I guess.
But doesn't she tell Mia in one episode that it was rent controlled or something? That her apartment was rent controlled.
I mean, it's a pretty nice apartment, so I guess I buy it.
Yeah, and the configuration changes. It's like going where the TV is as opposed to where the bedroom is. It changes. It switches around.
Maybe Kara's one of those people who likes to like just change
shui.
up. Yeah, change up the layout of her apartment every so often to keep things fresh. And it would be easy for her because moving things is not much of a problem.
No, she would be able to lift couches and do them very, fast.
Kara's looking up all those interior design blobs.
But it's great, it would be interesting. It would be interesting.
So I guess so we've been going for about an hour, Donna. So I guess we can sort of get to some of the questions that we probably should hit before we let you go. So you did talk about some of your favorite Danvers sisters moments and scenes. And I guess we sort of talked about season 5 and the current state of the Danvers sisters. Morgan, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know we've talked about that, but we haven't talked about it specifically in terms of the Danvers sisters, I don't think. But what are your thoughts on the season? Like after season 5 ended, what's the current state of the Danvers sisters?
The state of the Danvers sisters, yeah. I think that season 6 needs to like refocus on the Danvers sisters. I feel like we lost them in season 5. We lost a lot of things in season 5, but we got Leviathan. So what a trade!
We lost. In my opinion, we lost the Danvers sisters in season 2.
Yeah, that happened a little bit in season 2, definitely, and then.
And I understand the story they were trying to tell and how important it was to tell it, but I think they forgot an important aspect of that story. So we lost a little bit of Alex, and we lost a little bit of Alex and Kara. The scenes my favorite scenes from season 2, that I'm proud of you scene, which Rebecca and I were talking earlier, Morgan.
I think you have a script, don't you?
I do.
Can you know it?
I managed to copy. This is the script for Changing, which is the scene where the episode where Alex comes out. And it's just a testament to how good, again, the actresses are, because the entire scene, that last scene where Kara comes into Alex's apartment and says, I made a mistake and she doesn't like me that way and all of that. I cannot begin to tell you how much they brought to that scene, because on the written page in the script, it's maybe a 1-page scene with very little direction or exposition. It just says, it says interior Alex's apartment. Alex's place is pretty Spartan but tasteful like hers. She's sitting on the couch, her arms around the knees, like she's rocking herself, and there's a knock on the door. Then it's, go away, Kara. And then a beat. Kara flies in through the window. Alex doesn't move. More dialogue. Alex gets up and starts getting ready after she says, "You're right, I should go in." Few more lines, I was wrong. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have said anything. I should have kept my mouth shut. Alex, what happened? Alex takes a beat fighting back tears. She doesn't like me like that. Now, we all know how that line was delivered, and these lines were delivered. And then the line just says, "I'm so ashamed." And we know how she struggled to get that out. And it says, Kara hugs her sister as the tears come. And the scene ends off Alex holding on to her sister for dear life. And that's it. That's the end of the scene as it was written. And if you think back as to how that scene ended up on film, how much they brought to that scene. It's
Yeah, good actors are always going to elevate the written material, but that's still pretty moving to hear just from the written word.
They crush that scene, and they do every time that you put them together and you give them big emotional stuff. Like in that episode about Jeremiah, I was very confused, but like Kyler kills it. I was like, I don't know why she's yelling, but I'm here on this journey with her. And I think if I can be like moved by a scene in which I am confused and don't understand, then how much better would it be if the story made sense and if they focused on the characters? Like, I think season 6 needs to get back to, I think hopefully they're taking their time. They've got a long time to regroup and see what didn't work in season 5. And to me, it was that season 5 was so scattered. Focus it in on the characters.
I mean, I will tell you, there is a spoiler TV roundtable coming out soon about the last 2 episodes of the season and sort of an overview of the season. And one of the questions is, where it's going in season 6. I'm going to tease a little bit of one of the questions, and I'm going to pose it to you ladies as it was posed to me in that roundtable. Is it time for Catco to go the way of the DEO?
We would lose that desk.
We would lose the desk, and God, so many people have lived there. So many good people have lived under that desk. At this point, though, I mean, I think that there definitely could be an argument made for losing that as like a location of the show, because we know that Kara doesn't go to work ever. And now Nia doesn't either. Kara has corrupted like the youth of Catco. I knew it was going to be a problem.
It's not even Catco anymore. It's Obsidian.
It's mostly Obsidian. I'm not sure what Andrea Rojas does there except make commercials. So yeah, I think that there might have an interest if they keep Andrea Rojas around for next season, and who knows what they're doing with anything. But there could be like an interesting concept, which is kind of what I wanted them to do with the DEO, which is like everybody leaves the DEO and the DEO becomes evil. And they could do something similar with Catco, where it's like Andrea Rojas like kind of takes over Catco and makes it into like more of an Obsidian type of shady company, and then sort of Kara is kind of fighting back from the sidelines. Catco doesn't really feel like a media company anymore. It feels like they make apps and products. We watched a whole season about their unsuccessful product launch. So,
well, Leslie makes a good point that I always argued for, because I think, and we've talked about this, Morgan, that the show has endpoints that they could use, and they don't seem to do it, like with Alex and the director of the DEO. Like maybe that should have been her endpoint. Leslie reiterates something that I've always pitched, that at some point Kara would become the Catco CEO, that she would become the Cat Grant of Catco. And that's always where I've seen her going. And so if they got rid of Catco, that loses also part of Kara's human life.
Yeah.
Then it would just be all Supergirl stuff. So what would Kara be doing?
Let me ask you this. Wasn't there a storyline in the comics once that Clark Kent and Lois Lane left the Daily Planet and they went and became television reporters?
Yes, that was with WGBS. And personally, for me, I always thought that was kind of dumb. Why did Clark Kent get on camera? That was the dumbest thing that I've ever thought about in terms of that character. But yes, that has happened in the comics, that they did sort of become
and given today's society, there is a new journalism. So couldn't there be another journalism platform?
Well, Kara could just start a YouTube channel. That's where I get most of my news. I'm going to be honest. Like, I love my YouTube channels. And some of those, like when people talk about new media, to me, that's YouTube.
Kara could start back up her blob, CaraDanvers.com.
CaraDanvers.com.
She's like, this is me for CaraDanvers.org. Who knows? But I do like the idea of her. I've never had a problem with Catco. I like Catco. I think that it's never focused on enough. I would love it if we saw Kara work. Like, what if she started working her way up the ladder by showing up and doing stuff just herself, or maybe with one other person, instead of having William come in and be like, look at all this research I did, and she's like, good job, and then she walks out and that's her Catco scene. It's like, what if the Catco storylines actually focused on Kara? Then I would love more Catco stuff.
And
that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
I would agree with that, but it's, but I think when getting back to your original question about what to see in season 6, I wholeheartedly agree that it needs to get back and focus on, what do they call them? The OTG, the Kara and Alex and Jean. Get back to that core group, that core family, that dynamic that is so strong and that has held the show up for all of these seasons. Give them a good storyline. Focus on that. My biggest fault or my biggest problem with, and as much as I love, and the acting was phenomenal from Brenda Strong and from Katie McGrath and from John Cryer, it was more Luthers than it was Supergirl. And get back to that. Get back to that core group. Get back to something else that this show has never done. Now, they did it this season with Jeremiah, but I don't consider that part of. But every other Arrowverse show has had to deal with the death of a major character. In other words, a recurring character. Arrow killed Black Canary.
It was the worst mistake they ever made.
Arrow killed.
It killed the show. The ratings tanked. They never recovered.
Yeah.
Rebecca has no opinions about this.
Obviously. Flash has killed a character. Legends has killed characters. But
Legends is bloodthirsty.
Supergirl has never had, have Kara deal with something that is beyond her control as Supergirl. Someone she couldn't save, something that she couldn't prevent. They touched a little bit of it in season 1 with having Kelly jump off the building.
R.I.P. Kelly.
R.I.P. Never forget.
Yeah. But they have never dealt with her dealing with something that was beyond her control.
This is why they need to listen to Supergirl Radio. I have been pitching this for 4 seasons
you really
now.
Have, yeah.
Because there is a storyline in the comics where Supergirl tries to cure a little boy of cancer. And that is something that you could totally do something like that, where Supergirl can't fix an illness or he'll heal somebody. So I'm just saying, listen to Supergirl Radio. We've got all the ideas.
Well, and if y'all want to just have one session of just a pitch session, I'll come back and we'll we can spend 2 hours pitching.
We've done that.
We've done that.
Yeah, we have.
That's how we pitched Nasty Luther.
I was gonna say, and one day we will get Nasty Luther on the show.
There are no bad ideas in brainstorming.
That's true.
So I guess since we're talking about storylines, really quickly, this is kind of a big deal. So I know we're kind of getting long, but the adoption storyline.
Yeah.
With Alex adopting a baby. Donna, what are your thoughts about how that sort of came up and then it seems to have gotten pushed back down? What are your thoughts?
I think it's still on the table. I want to remember a San Diego Comic-Con roundtable interview that Kyler and Ozzy did, where Kyler and them both talk about how they sat down with them and said, we have a long-term plan for Alex to become a mother, and that we're going to start it in season 5 and continue it in season 6. I cannot find the interview. I know it's out there. I want to say that, but
who told them that?
But here's my thought: is if they are going to do an Alex as a mother storyline, and I think they need to, or they will eventually, that would bring Alex's story full circle. Is that have Alex adopt an alien child. And by child, I mean child, not an infant, not a baby, a child, an alien child whose parents are killed, something. Then you have someone coming to Alex with another abandoned alien child for her to take care of and use her experience in helping raise Kara. And
the tragedy is that they were basically doing that in season 3. They were
so
setting
close.
that up with Ruby, and because of all that Andrew Kreisberg stuff,
in season 3,
it got rewritten. I firmly believe it got rewritten. I don't have any insider knowledge.
I'm positive that Sam wasn't
I
originally
do
supposed
too.
to make it.
I do too, because I agree with y'all on that. I think so. I loved the scenes with Kyler and the little girl. I thought they were wonderful. It was showing a different side of Alex, and it was the perfect setup. It really was, and I'm like you, Rebecca. I think the Kreisberg stuff caused a lot of that to be rewritten, and it ended. I do think they're going to go back to it. I just think we have to have a little patience with them, and I'm hoping that they take the time. Like y'all said, they've got plenty of time to now sit down and really look and evaluate as to what has worked and what hasn't and which way they need to go.
It just kind of feels like, to me, like they're going further away from the idea of Alex. Exactly. So Leslie makes a good point that I was just about to make, which is Alex is now a vigilante. That doesn't seem like a safe career for a single mother. I mean, I guess not single. She's with Kelly now, but still not a safe career when you're like bringing a new
which
child.
goes back to my point is I didn't like them calling her a vigilante to begin with.
Yeah,
but that's what they all called it in all of the interviews.
Yeah, I think like a watchtower role would have been a natural transition to her post the DEO. Would have maybe seemed safer. Like she's a detective and she's like, she's helping manage them, which her management skills in the DEO would have helped with.
Her leadership skills.
Skills, yes. And also she wouldn't be in the field like, tossing it up with gods, and like her powers are gun and eyeshadow. It's not a safe environment.
She did in the battle with the first battle that she and Magan have with the god. She did use the thing to create the rocket launcher she shot at the woman.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool. It cracks me up because I follow, and some friends of mine and I follow the Lisa Chandler, who is Kyler's stunt double. We follow her on Twitter and things, but she's also Nicole's stunt double. She doubles Dreamer.
Oh, I didn't know
so
that.
I'm wondering in that fight scene where Dreamer and Alex are fighting side by side, which one was Lisa and which one was somebody else.
Well, Morgan, you'll enjoy this. So Riley has a pitch about Alex and the child. Alex and Hope really bond after the fall of Leviathan, and Lena decides to help and uploads Hope to a brain dead child who Alex adopts. Now that is a little grim.
This is grim, but I love it because what if Alex then has to teach Hope to like be a human and like not to be so murderous? It's like. And could you imagine how like we would get like just a thread of horror through Supergirl, because suddenly there'd be like a little kid that'd be like,
"Oh, that would be so scary,
mommy. Should we kill Supergirl?" And she's like, "No, we've talked about this, Hope."
Oh. What it kills me is that the Crisis Reset erased every bad deed done in the first half of season 5.
Including my girl Hope.
Including your girl Hope.
That's
you know, I love Andrea Brooks. I had the pleasure of speaking to her when Rachel Skarsten and Paul Amos did that home con.
Oh, yeah.
And they offered, you could buy a one-on-one Zoom call, much like at the different cons, you could buy a Zoom call where it was just you and the star for 5 minutes. And I got one with Andrea. And she was just delightful. And we were I was asking and teasing, well, is it, you know, is the Eve we saw, is it Eve or is it Hope? You know, when they teased at that she was an Obsidian, you know, that they didn't make her full on evil, but she was just delightful to talk to. She loves the show. It's clear that everybody on the show just loves the show, loves being on the show. And what, you know, a lot they bring to you. And I actually believe that comes across on screen. And it starts at the top. It starts with Kyler and Melissa as the Danvers sisters. They're the anchor that the rest of the show revolves around. They need to get back to that in season 6. Find them some good storyline, whether it's, you know, like I said, I really wish they hadn't called Alex a vigilante. There had to be another word for it, but I'm not sure what it was. So, for lack of a better term, that's, you know, what she is. But, you know, I've seen all kinds of names thrown out there, and I don't know what they're going to come up with. Is that going to eventually, you know, when things settle down? When things settle down with all the losers and all, is that going to cause problems with her relationship with Kelly? Is Kelly going to get scared again? Are they going to, you know, explore that?
Well, no, I mean, Kelly's going to become Guardian. We all know this. She's going to lead the New Scout Legion.
We believe it, and we're putting that out into the universe. The secret, like.
Well, let me put it this way, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but. No, I better anyway.
Yeah, don't put yourself on the line for us. It's not worth it. Are you trying to tell us that the New Scout Legion is coming in season 6?
No.
Blink once for yes, two for no.
No.
What inside info?
So my comments were more on the lines of this iteration of the Guardian.
Oh, yeah.
Is it going to be Hornblower? Because that would make me so happy. And Kelly found a horn in James's stuff.
Could you imagine her being like, Alex, I found this horn, and is it magic?
Does it have portals that I can create? Yeah, no.
Free
ideas.
Talked about where the sister relationship was now. And I think one big change from season 2 to now is, as much as I adored Alex and Maggie together, Maggie never really felt like part of the team, part of the family. She was always a little bit of the outsider. And with Kelly, I think Alex has grown into herself more and is more self-assured about herself. So it's a mature relationship. But then too, Kelly is part of the inner circle. She's part of the family. So there wasn't that of her having to fit in, because she already fit in. She was already there. She was already part of it. So, but I would like to see more, you know, maybe more Kelly and Cara scenes. Cara says,
yeah.
let's go have Big Belly burgers. Well,
So
lunch.
that leads into a good question that a couple of people in the chat are putting out there. Does Kelly know that Kara is Supergirl?
Does anyone know this?
Does
I
anyone
don't.
know this?
Does Kelly know the car is
Look at
Supergirl?
everybody. Hey, if anybody has an answer, I'd like to know. One scene they'll give you, and it's like, she has to know. But then another scene, it's like, well, maybe she doesn't. And if not, or if she does, why did they deny us the scene of her telling Alex she knows?
Yeah, that's a big deal.
It's such a huge deal for the show, and we shouldn't not know where she is. And I kind of feel like unfortunately, I like the Alex and Kelly relationship, but I feel like the show doesn't always care about it so much, and that's kind of one of the signs is that like we don't even know if Kelly knows that Kara is Supergirl.
See, I have one theory on that, is that James and all his activity as guardian and all of this, I think he told her, and it's just never been revealed that she knows.
I think the horn I think the horn gave her some sort of clue. It gave put a message out there.
I think the phone call in the finale, when she's in with Kara in Lena's lab, and Kelly calls, and Alex turns and yells at Kara, "No super hearing!" with the phone right there.
Yeah, even if she knew pre-crisis, does she know post-crisis? So there's so many questions about Kelly and Kara.
In this wacky post-crisis, post-Amadeus world that we all live in. Yeah, can we be sure of anything?
See, I think I know it.
I don't know, Mike.
I would be surprised that somewhere there's a barista somewhere at Noonan's that might not know, but I'm not sure about everybody.
That's about it.
That's about it. They make this big deal about, there was this
only Lena didn't know for years.
It was the glasses. It had to be the glasses. It was like,
yeah.
Oh, who are we talking to now? Where'd Donna
go? Well, I guess that's a good note to end on, that we just have no idea what's happening on the show. I guess, Donna, what would you want to leave people with in terms of your thoughts about the book or your thoughts about the Danvers sisters? What would you want to leave people with tonight?
Just, my main focus on the show are the Danvers sisters. That is, it's cliched, but it's true. They are the heart and soul of that show. And I love their relationship. I love the characters. They have allowed these characters to grow so much in 5 seasons. I'd like to see where they're going next. I'd like to focus on it. I would invite everybody. The book is available on Amazon.com, and it is also available at BarnesandNoble.com. You can order it. I also have, and I'm going to give these to you, Rebecca, I'm going to send these to you. I have some bookmarks that I made. So I'm going to donate some bookmarks. And y'all can give them away any way y'all would like, and I will sign them and send them to you.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely give them. I
appreciate it. I was honored to be asked to work on the book. It was a little enlightening for me. To do all the research and to dive into really just how much went into it. I would invite people, if people have any questions about the book or any questions about the Danvers sisters. You know me, we've served on many Dragon Con panels about Supergirl. I am always willing to talk about the Danvers sisters. So if somebody wants us to reach out to me on Twitter, it's at DJ Ryder on Twitter, and there you go. And I will talk Danvers sisters all day. So thank y'all for having me on and for letting me talk about the book and talk about my favorite characters on Supergirl.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming back and for talking to us about the book and your thoughts about the current state of the Danvers sisters, because we talk about that quite a bit. Well, I think that's going to do it for our chat with Donna Cromeans about the book Girl of Steel, Essays on Television, Supergirl, and Fourth Wave Feminism. And I guess, Donna, we've already talked about where people can find you. Are there any websites or anything that you want to also put out there aside from your Twitter?
No, like I said, just my Twitter is the best way to find me. Now, I do watch for my articles, and there will be an article coming out about the final two episodes of Supergirl, a Supergirl roundtable, sometime soon on Spoiler TV. It has been written, and I think they're just waiting to post it at an appropriate time. And just keep watching the show and keep loving the show. They have done, great things with these characters. So there's so much more they can do, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it.
Well, cool. Well, if you want to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. And if you want to leave a voicemail, you can call us at 678-718-7252. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. We're on Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. We've got a musical playlist there in case you ever want to listen to the music from the show or inspired by the music on the show. We're also on Radio Public and Podchaser, and we're on dccomics.com/DC-fans, which is the DC's fan page. We're also available on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher Radio. So if you've got some time this summer and you're not, you've got a few minutes, hey, why don't you go over to Apple Podcasts or Stitcher Radio and give us a rating and write us a review? That would be great. And you can go to supergirlradio.com on the right side of the page and find any of the links that I just mentioned. And now, Morgan, I know you're dreading this, but I think you should do the DC TV plugs for us.
I've been preparing. All right. So, I'm going to plug the DC TV Other Podcasts. That's what they're called. The DC TV Other Podcasts. What are they, you might ask? Don't worry. Here I go telling you. You can also listen to the Flash podcast, Supergirl Radio. Hey, that's us. Legends of Tomorrow podcast. I'm on that one too. The Black Lightning podcast, the Titans podcast, the Batwoman podcast. All kinds of crazy news going on about that one. Who will be Batwoman? No one knows. Stargirl podcast, Superman and Lois Radio, Green Lantern podcast, and Strange Adventures podcast. Those are the many podcasts we have, and you should listen to all of them. You're saying, Morgan, that's too many podcasts. And I'm saying, just do it.
That's a great plug. Thank you very much. You can also go to dctvpodcast.com/fundraiser, where you can find information about our fundraiser on June 20th. We're going to be raising money for Feeding America. So we have an all-day long podcasting event. It's going to be live. It's going to be at mixler.com/DCTV podcasts. So visit the website. You can go ahead and donate if you would like to, if that's something that you are able to do. And you can also find the schedule for all of the shows that are when they're going to be on at what time. Supergirl Radio is going to be the penultimate hour before the big assembly hour is what we call it. And I'll be having a guest, because Morgan, unfortunately, will not be able to join me. But I'm going to bring Dave Jones back on. We've had him on the podcast.
Oh, exciting.
He's a lot of fun. I think last time he was on, we talked about Tom Cruise movies.
Amazing.
It was delightful.
Was it like the all Top Gun hour of Supergirl Radio?
Yes. It involved Top Gun. I think there was a cocktail mention. So if you enjoyed that, Dave Jones will be back talking about season 5 with me. So definitely go to dctvpodcast.com/fundraiser for all that information, because it's coming up faster than
My God, June.
I know.
Believe it.
What happened to the months. It's crazy. Well, you can find me on Instagram at The Derby Kid. I also voice a character named Leanne on a sketch comedy podcast called The Fakest, which you should check out. It's very funny. I'm also a contributor to Justice League Universe podcast, and I just recently recorded an audio commentary with Sam Otten of JLU podcast about Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. So that was the second time I had watched the film, and I still had some beef with a couple things, but I enjoyed more things than I thought. We actually really, I think we cracked crack some things open about the Birds of Prey film. So it's definitely worth a listen if you want to go back and watch the film with us.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Mojotastic. You can also find my cats, as Rebecca mentioned, at the Lab Cats on Instagram. They're just being cats. They're just being kittens. And you can also find me as a co-host on the Legends of Tomorrow podcast, which their season is ending shortly, but it's one of the few shows that actually got to film their finale. So that should be fun. Just like a whole season of television. That'll be a change.
That would indeed. That's very refreshing to actually to watch a show start to finish. That's why I'm enjoying Stargirl so far, because I think Stargirl finished.
I think it did, yeah.
I believe they did. I'm enjoying it. It's well done.
Yeah, I mean, I know this is a Supergirl podcast, but I would also recommend that other blonde girl with with the powers
and the red and blue suit.
Yeah, the Stargirl's been pretty good so far. The pilot's a little rough around the edges, but it's a good story at least. So anyway, that's it for this. Is not Stargirl Radio. No. So I gotta remember what podcast we're on. So I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon.
And we'll leave you with this quote from Donna's essay. There is no doubt that Supergirl's greatest superpower is the Sisterhood of Steel. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll add the theme music there at the end in post, as they say. So that's going to do it for us tonight. But Donna, we could go all night, I think, talking about this stuff.
Definitely.
You know that we have.
Yeah. So I don't want to keep you. I know we've already kept you a long time. But we'll find another way to bring you back at some point. So just
love it.
Yeah, just keep us in the loop. And thank you to everybody who joined in the chat. Thank you for all your pitches and all of your very clever comments. And one day we'll probably figure out if Kelly knows the car is Supergirl.
One day. And then that's the same day we'll get the News Gal Legion. And Kelly will find out that she's a turtle girl.
and Alex will get her child.
Yeah, all this is going to happen in the same episode. Action-packed.
That's going to be the best episode of Supergirl ever.
At their wedding. At Kelly and Alex's wedding.
And then they go back to their apartment.
That almost derails the wedding. Is like Kelly's like, oh my God, I'm turning into a turtle girl.
I want them to go home and then just like, the desk is in their home and they curl up and sleep under the desk. That's my that's my personal ending.
Did I see a comment earlier that if they get rid of Catco, that the Catco can go live with the couch?
Yes, I saw that. The desk can go live with the couch. I saw that. It made me laugh.
I want to see the backstory, the tale of that relationship. All right. Well, I guess we'll get out of here. But thank you to everybody who watched this, and I hope you all had a good time. And we'll be back next Tuesday if you're interested. We'll be playing some Supergirl Jeopardy. So
excited about this one.
Can I come play?
Yeah,
of course.
Well,
please do.
We're gonna play in the comment section. So we're not going to have like contestants just because it's kind of hard with like buzzers and things like that. So we'll be playing in the comments. But I'm hoping that I can get a special announcer on the podcast.
I think you might be able to do it.
Okay. All right. So we'll be having a lot of fun. We'll probably play 2 games of Supergirl Jeopardy in honor of Superman Celebration, which got canceled. So that'll be a lot of fun. Same time next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Facebook at Supergirl Radio, and then youtube.com/DCTV podcast. So you can watch it from either location.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to test your knowledge, and don't cheat by looking things up on the internet because Supergirl would not put up with cheating. So anyway, y'all have a great night, and hope you have a good rest of your week.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.